I'm a graphic designer. For the past 22 years, I've been designing packaging. I've been illustrating. And this is what I've been doing for very long. The interesting thing is that you've seen the title, but this talk will not be about brands. I will show you no actual brands. And when I start showing visual examples, I will present no real brands at all. Actually, this talk is about basic visuals, those photographs, illustrations, basic visuals coming together to create the voice of a brand. Actually, what I want you to do today is kind of an experiment. I want you all to imagine that we are all a part of a branding and design company. Yeah? So we are all going to be graphic designers, photographers, illustrators, and copywriters together. But first, let me do some introduction. I'll be talking about actually the visual language. For me, when I start talking about brands, it's not the TV commercials, it's not the advertisements. Whenever I go to a supermarket, that's the first time and that's the core place where I see the brands on those packagings. Or whenever I go to a bookstore, on the covers, that's where I see the brands. Actually, I want to talk about the visual language and the storytelling. Visual storytelling that takes place on those packaging. You see, Marian Bantjes once said, design and typography are like a well-tailored suit. Well, she was referring to good designs that do not only get the message through, but communicate something more. Something more. So it's not just a package. You see, an inexperienced eye may not perceive or identify those small design-wise enhancements, but those little touches, the creation of an elegant visual composition is the thing that lifts that design above the others. Have you ever just bought something just because you like the packaging? Did anybody do that? I sometimes do that. Yeah. There is a reason for that. I believe it's the story. We call this visual storytelling. Actually, whenever a visual design evolves into a good story, in this case a visual story, the product evolves into a brand. That's what I think the key is. And this wonder actually happens when the most basic images and good typography are composed together at the hands of a skilled graphic designer. Now, the agency part. I want to take you to a journey. We call this the hero's journey. I'll be talking about brands finding their voices through visuals. And I will tell you the story of a single image in a nutshell. Let me start by asking a simple question. What is the difference between a product in just a normal, some kind of packaging, and an actual famous brand? I believe the story. I guess everybody recognizes who this could be. Yeah? In my opinion, a brand is actually a personification of a product. And this personification happens by means of the stories told in the name of the product. We are talking about stories right now, so you forget about brands. We're talking about stories. And so I feel the need to tell what a story is. We need some elements to identify a story. This thing you see on the screen is actually, it's called the hero's journey. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. This is kind of the structure of any story. What else do we need? First of all, we need a hero. We need secondary characters, third-tier characters, maybe a sidekick, would be nice, or a plot, definitely a plot, a setting. We need a climax in the story, kind of the peak point Yeah, a love affair, definitely. Love affair is just to cheer things up a little bit. The most important thing in a story is that we need a goal, okay, a target. We need the hero to achieve something. Actually, most of the times it seems like it's the villain that he has to overcome, right? But it's not always the villain. To make it a story, actually, the goal is enough. And sometimes that goal is a change, maybe a psychological or a physical change that our hero has to go through. If we have these elements, we have a story. Why are stories so important? Because stories help to create brands. But think of the stories for now. Why are they so special for us? Actually, we humans communicate through stories. Neuroscientists even proved that we remember things by means of stories. It's how we recall things. So stories are important. And what happens when we start telling and receiving the story of a product? You know, think of those maybe t-shirts or hats or the products you are proud to use, maybe. Actually, we start to help create a brand. That's what we do. So we are also a part of the creation of a brand by means of stories again. And again, why are the stories so important for us? The answer is simple. Because everybody likes a good story. Let's change the storyline today. Let's forget about the hero brand or the celebrity, let's say. So let's forget about the main character, but let's concentrate on the same story from a different perspective. Let's have a look at this simple, delicious hazelnut. Now, imagine that you and I, we are all working for a branding and design agency, right? Graphic designers, copywriters, illustrators. We are all a team. So we go to a meeting with the very famous major brand, okay? The client, of course. And they want to introduce a product that will actually empower their branded identity, a new line, maybe. And the first thing we get as a brief is that our product line will have hazelnut and chocolate cream inside. And this is the starting point where we structure a storyline. We call this the call for adventure. Actually, this time it's the adventure for us. Here we need to perform a debrief with our client. Let's show them as many possible candidates for a hero. I think of this like an audition, right? So there is going to be a hero, so we have got a lot of actors. Actually, this debriefing process has to take place for every individual image that we may or may not use on the design. The point is to extract the client's preferences, their visual preferences. So one by one, we are getting rid of all those images. It is a long process, but it's a fun process. Let's talk about the identity of our hazelnut. Let's talk about its looks, its positioning. And the most important of all, we need to talk about its interaction with our senses. You see, as the adventure is laid out, first now we have a hero, a chosen one, and we need to start meeting other characters, secondary characters, tertiary characters, you know, in the story structure. So here comes the sidekick. You see, this hazelnut is a stronger one. It has got its own shell. It looks strong, but it is the secondary character. Who else? We've got the leaves. Well, maybe this is the funny one, the funny friend, a second sidekick. Oh, yeah. The milk jar. Have you ever seen Game of Thrones? For some reason, this soft, big guy there reminds me of Hodor. And we've got the love affair. This is the love affair. You see, all these characters there are actually they exist there to empower our hero, to help our hero in the journey, because this is a story. And they are there to help it reach its goal. Okay, so we got the goal coming. And what is the goal? The goal, this time in this story, is a change. Our hero needs to evolve into something more than it used to be. And in this case, it's the most desirable product ever created by our brand. It's a hazelnut and chocolate cream biscuit. We need a stage. We need a setting. Okay, I want to try something different here. Why is all this fuss? Why stories, visual storytelling? Oh, is it really necessary? So let's be practical and let's just try putting only the necessities in there, just the necessities. We just write biscuits and we just put biscuit photography. It does give enough information, right? Does this really manage to communicate? Does this really call you somehow? I don't think so. I think something is missing. I think we really need a story there. So how can we got the characters, all the characters, and we can see the goal, the change, okay? So how can we turn this into a stage, into a more fun story? Okay, we need a setting, we need some background visuals. We got the white ground, it's for milk, and we got the blue stripe, defining the hazelnut. Okay, so we are progressing. Okay, sci-fi. Yeah? Some action into the deep space. Very energetic product, is it? Maybe. Maybe something more romantic or even sexy. City nights. Moonlight. Yeah? Calm. Something tranquil. A sunset. Or even a pastoral feeling. That homey feeling. A farm or a country house. How about that? You see, we don't need to show many details. We just need to show just a few hints for people to get that feeling. Whatever we want to tell, however we want to tell the story. And of course, we need some atmosphere. We need some lights and some colors, of course. And finally, for a good story, we need a script. In this case, it's typography. We call this typography. You know, it's just writing some stuff, right? Typography, so not much to it. Actually, there is a lot to it. You see, good typography will both visualize our script and inform the target audience. Good typography will actually set the mood in the adventure. Is it fun? Is it adventurous? Is it romantic? It's all in there in the typography. Good typography can even be the mentor of the story, informative. In case of a good visual design, good typography is actually the climax of the story. It's the peak point. Good typography is actually defines what the story is about. There is a context. I believe any design work that inherits good visual storytelling has the potential to transform the products into actual brands. And there is also a hidden context. Somebody has to be doing this. Brands find their voices through visuals in the hands of those skilled but anonymous designers. Who creates these designs? Who creates these packaging? Who creates those book covers? Most of the time written in small letters or none at all, but they are there. You see, brands don't just come to be what they are today. They are the creations of many skilled designers whose actually sole purpose is to add some more beauty to the consumer's world, to our consumer's world. It's a kind of beauty that we always see, but never consciously perceive. It's a kind of beauty that we are prone to taking it for granted. Have you ever not wondered when you go through those shelves and just say, I wonder who did this? All those skilled designers are actually the narrators of the story. And actually, the story is the story of any and every brand. The next time you go to a bookstore and start looking at those covers, or you go to a cinema and start looking at the movie posters, or the next time you go to a supermarket, I just hope that you will look at those beautiful package designs, beautiful covers, and wonder, wow, this looks nice, who did this? Thank you for listening.